Either monsters are made of dreams, or dreams are made of monsters. It started in a bed, after it had already become what it was. Different than most dreams, which start in a bed but become something else entirely. And it was in this bed, with its corner in the corner of the room, its side pressed against the side of the wall, that Jeremy awoke with his back against such wall, and his eyes fixed on an open doorway. Through that open doorway was a hallway, and on the other side of that hallway there was another open doorway catty-cornered to his own which revealed a bathroom. The familiarity of the space left him without question or pause. He was inside of his childhood home. The bathroom light was on. This illumination in the otherwise pitch-black house allowed Jeremy to peer inside, though the indirect angle revealed no more than a blue-hued shower curtain. Not all of his senses failed him, however, for his hearing provided him with the sound of something which, unrecognizable at first, he was able to identify as not quite clicking or snapping, but snipping? Yes, what he heard was the sound of snipping, and rather loud snipping at that. But whatever could somebody be doing at this hour? He pondered. Peeling back a red-speckled bedspread, he got out of bed and shifted. Shifted because in dreams one does not walk. Over to the bathroom to get a better look inside. Standing pressed against the counter sink, without a doubt, was his mother, just as he remembered her from his youth, although he could not see her face from the side as it was covered by her particularly furrowed hair. He noticed that the loud noise of snipping, which still continued, was coming from an oversized pair of silver scissors that she held between her two hands. Scissors which were cutting, maniacally, at her beautiful, brownish-red hair. Maniacally, as in with intention but without tact. Though, of course, how could it be otherwise? For after taking a glance at the mirror, Jeremy realized that there was nothing for her to use to look upon herself, because her eyes were dark black and without pupils, and her wide gaze swallowed light like a dark abyss. This did not stop her, however, from turning her head towards Jeremy once he had entered the mirror's domain. Perhaps she could see him after all. And then further, after a few seconds of snipping, turning her body towards him with the blades of silver now also pointing his way, the latter of which caused him to think naively, "Please, Mom, don't cut my hair," but mutter aloud, "Mom, what are you doing?" But she didn't reply. Instead, her face contorted with strain before eventually returning to its original ghastliness, once the scissors had broken at their center and she held each blade separately in her hands. And then there was a word greater than that of what he felt before, and that word is terror, because this thing that looked like his mother in all her qualities except those of the eyes was stumbling towards him slowly, with two oversized and sharp-looking scissor blades, which at first gave him time to think, "This is really happening, but at least I have time to get away," before sudden, unexpected escalation came in the form of her lashing out towards him with incredible speed, driving the two blades that were at one time combined to be called scissors into his chest, and the pain came so quickly that he would have sworn that he felt it before the blades ever touched him. Pain which was unbearable and certainly more physically substantial than any pain he had ever felt in his waking life. Are we so sure this was a dream? He hoped that this pain would go away by looking at the wound, by looking back at this thing that had attacked him, and back again at the wound, oozing, dripping now with dark red blood, right through his nightshirt, where the only prior sound, the sound of snipping, which was at first replaced by his own questioning, was now replaced with screaming. Not by Jeremy, but by this thing that is difficult to call his mother. This thing, it screamed so loudly, only stopping when he slumped to the floor out of sheer necessity and asked, "But why, Mom?" And then, darkness. But darkness always ends sometime, just as people who are lying in beds almost always awake, which is what Jeremy did, sitting up quickly and grabbing at his chest, except there was nothing there to grab but the fabric of a nightshirt, just as there was nothing to feel but the ghost of wet blood and piercing pain. And just as he realized that there was nothing to grab because he had no wound, no scissor blades protruding from his chest, so too did he realize that he was again in his childhood bedroom, which was strange, certainly, but not as strange as that sound coming from somewhere near, which, unrecognizable at first, he was able to identify as not quite clicking or snapping, but snipping? Yes, what he heard was the sound of snipping, and rather loud snipping at that, When he turned his head to follow the sound, he peered past a hallway and into a bathroom doorway, catty-cornered to his own doorway, highlighted from its illumination in the otherwise pitch-black house. Which sounds so familiar. Just what exactly is going on here? He pondered, thinking in a manner of déjà vu. What could somebody be doing at this hour? And he did just as he did before. Peeling back a red-speckled bedspread, he got out of bed and shifted. Shifted because in dreams one does not walk. And this was a dream, wasn't it? He shifted over to the bathroom where he had found his mother in the mirror, snipping her hair with intention but without tact, which before we called maniacal and is now no different, finding her dark black pupils and wide gaze which seemed to swallow all light once again in the bathroom as well as the mirror, with her turning towards him this time with the oversized scissors already pulled apart at the center, their silver ends smeared in blood, and with Jeremy realizing just how little time he had, immediately turning around to run, except the same feeling of pain before contact eventually met contact via the large silver blades in the middle of his back. The pain, undeniable and real, and the feeling of blood, dripping down, and again the screaming, this time with no questions in between, the shrill shrieks which left him falling face first onto a floor which was only cold on the cheeks for a short while. And then, darkness. But darkness always ends sometime, and when it did this time, in the same childhood bedroom with the same sounds of snipping and the same illuminating light which spotlighted the atrocity that he expected lay within were he to investigate, Jeremy said aloud to himself, "Fool me once, fool me twice," and crawled out from underneath the red-speckled bedspread, onto the floor and under the bed itself, where he could still hear, regrettably, the scissors ending their snipping and breaking apart after a few moments, and where he could still see, woefully, this thing that looked so much like his mother step outside of the bathroom, with blades, hands, and dress completely soaked in blood, and hair short and disheveled, where she then called to him in a lovely voice which he associated with his mother, Jenna Bentworth, but not with this thing in the hallway. "Jeremiah? Jeremiah, sweetie, thank you for helping Mommy. Thank you for keeping the monsters away from me. It'll only hurt for a little while, my prince. Then you won't have to worry about them any longer. Then they will be Mommy's problem." With her then shifting forward and entering his bedroom, her feet coming closer and closer to the bed, until she was at the edge of the bed and his back was pressed up against the wall, and it was right then that he thought about just how painful the last few moments had been. If they had been moments. Just how much he dreaded the pain to come in his chest and in his back. Could this really be a dream? And then she dipped down, and while it was too dark to see her face, he knew that her eyes were black, and that they had probably swallowed all the light he could have used to see it. Then she said in a terrible voice, "We got you!" And then, darkness. But darkness always ends sometime.